Welcome to the Dave Pamah Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Pamah.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Pamah Show. And with me in this episode, I have, I'm joined by Stephen Seidel, a TEDx keynote speaker, best-selling author, and founder of the award-winning Seidel Agency, who turned personal loss into a powerful mission to help leaders and teams rewrite their stories, lead with authenticity, and use connection as currency to create lasting impact. Stephen Seidel, I think it's Seidel, actually. I'm not sure I pronounced it wrong. Welcome to the Dave Pamah Show anyway.
Hey, Dave, thanks so much for having me. No worries. It's Seidel, kind of like, I'm sighing, but you know what? It's all good.
I said it right. I said it right the first time. Then.
Yeah, you're all good. Thank you so much for having me on, Dave. I appreciate it. Great intro.
It's a great pleasure having you here. Great pleasure. Always worth having a fellow
the pond.
Coach. Yeah, across the pond. Most of my listeners, 2/3 are across the pond anyway, and then it's a global show anyway. I get them from all over the world, but
worldwide, like Pitbull.
Exactly. Yeah, Pitbull. I don't know what's happened to him lately. Actually, he's probably having a little break. Actually,
taking some time off. Everybody needs a recharge.
Exactly. Yeah, probably his shaver needs a recharge to shave his head a bit. You know.
Yeah, get the goatee looking sharp.
Anyway, jokes aside, Steve. Okay, Stephen. So you said that connection is the only metric that truly matters.
Sure.
So can you take us back to the moment or series of experiences that shapes that belief, especially through the personal losses and reinvention that led you to create your men's group and start coaching top executives on rewriting their own stories?
Yes, absolutely. I think to take anyone back to the moment that truly matters, I think a lot of our childhood is a firm indicator of where we're going to end up. And it's a matter of, are we going to own that childhood experience and work from that and use that as a baseline to begin to go through what we grow through? Or are we going to allow that to dictate who we are today? And so my parents divorced when I was 1. I was a product of divorce.
Yeah.
And, I was caught in the middle. And so I became a people pleaser, and I was pleasing my mom, pleasing my dad, and then subconscious, I thought maybe I could bring them together. But subconsciously, I realized the power of connection. And then as I moved forward, I was connecting with baseball players. I was connecting with my dad and all these activities to bring me a sense of enjoyment.
Yeah.
Back then, it was, putting validation outside of myself and wanting my mom or my dad or coaches or people to recognize me. But as I grew older, I realized that, I need to love myself, much like a fountain. And then I've done a lot of work, obviously, self-work, coaches, therapists, you name it. But as I begin to move forward, for me, I realized that my genuine gift is truly connecting with people and talking to them and allowing them to feel seen. And I enjoy learning about individuals' stories because we all have a story, right?
Yeah, of course.
You have a story. I grew up watching movies as a young age. I would go every weekend and watch movies. And I was like, man, this is fascinating. But what it was the hero's journey, because we were all the hero in our own story. But the trials, the conflict, and then ultimately, I became an engineer. My parents suggested I go to engineering in college.
Yeah.
Which is fun, problem solving. I love to solve problems, but there wasn't that social aspect or the storytelling or the creative side of things. So I had the quantitative, but I needed the qualitative. And then as I moved forward, I started really leveraging a lot of the relationships I built. The Rolodex that we often used to talk about, but the younger generation doesn't really know about the Rolodex and all the people that you met. But I found when we can really connect to our calling, what is our purpose? What are the gifts that God has given us, or whoever you believe in? And then secondly, are we connecting to our company, the company that we keep? Are we connecting with the organization that we work? Do we have that cultural alignment? And lastly, are we connecting with our community? So as I went through all of this, I've had 5 to 20 different careers, but at the end of the day, it was always about telling a solid story that somebody can believe in, so that they can get behind you and they can vote with their dollar, or they can vote with their clicks, or they can vote with the time that they share. And ultimately, you can call it sales, you can call it marketing, you can call it impact. But for me, it's about connection.
Yeah.
Because when you connect to yourself, then you can connect to others, especially in the age of AI. There's a lot of automation and AI and different
There
tools.
is. Yeah.
And if you have that connection to other individuals and you look someone eye to eye, face to face, and you share space with them and you understand their story and create shared experiences, I feel as if that will allow you to continue to resonate and to rewrite your story. Because the same story that I had as a child, I'm not good enough, limiting beliefs, it
Mm.
changes. We have a story we tell ourselves,
Yeah.
but then we also have the story as we begin to move forward that we want to ultimately share while we build that lasting legacy.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't know how we're going to get there, but we need to have an idea of where we want to go to and then build that story around that and shape that story by talking to wonderful people like you on podcasts.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Stephen. I like the compliments, but it's not just me. You have a podcast as well. You're a podcast creator. You've done exactly the same thing as me, really, in terms of um,
Yeah.
well, you wasn't a firefighter, but I mean, you went into engineering, and it's a kind of similar field, as it's more like fire engineering, if you like, but obviously as a firefighter, it's
Yeah,
on the front line.
and to me, it's you're solving problems, and then you're also wanting to be creative. And so what I try to do is ultimately bring together the right brain and the left brain, and how can I solve a problem with creative solutions? And that's what I
Mm.
do through the power of story. And there's a multitude of ways to tell a story. I could come on a podcast. For me, I started a show called Renegade Reporting, and
Ah,
that was what really sparked a lot of the interest in me in creating content, and that's what led to me creating my agency. But in 2008, I was at the tail end. I was an engineer, and then I threw it all away and pursued acting and entertainment. And that was one
yeah,
of the most memorable moments of my life.
yeah, yeah.
But there weren't a lot of job opportunities. I was giving my power away. And so I said, look, I got to stop giving my power away. How can I
Mm.
put myself in the driver's seat? So I said, you know what? I'm going to create my own content. And I grabbed a camera with a friend of mine. I said, we're hitting Union Square in New York City. And I said, I'm going to ask people what the craziest thing that they've seen on the subway before is, because I've wanted to know that myself. But that speaks to the power of asking the right questions. But that started Renegade Reporting, and we were recording. I'm interviewing people. I said, oh my goodness, I really enjoy doing this.
Mm.
I get to connect with people. I get to hear their story. I get to share their stories so that other people can be inspired by their stories. And then I sold a show to YouTube
Oh, right, okay. Oh,
in
YouTube buy
2011.
shows.
It was through a production company called Omnivision
Ah,
Entertainment, but
okay.
they
Yeah,
sold
yeah,
it to YouTube.
yeah,
It
yeah.
lived on YouTube, and we were part of the first ever live comedy stream. And so we went on there and talked about our show. Me and my co-creator, we created a show, and then these relationships, they become part of who you are. And then ultimately, 2020, we all know about the pandemic,
Mm.
but I had my background of telling these stories. My story changed drastically because I moved cross country. I have a virtual agency. So I had no employees. I'm in a new city. I had no friends. I had a 1 month old baby, new city.
Oh,
And then my
wow.
mom got diagnosed with cancer. And
Oh,
so
yeah, yeah.
that was a really tough moment for me, because my extra bedroom where the business was running for the time being was now her bedroom. And I'm running my business from my laundry room. Clients are dropping like flies. My clients relied on me, my family relied on me, my 1 month old baby relied on me, and I was a caretaker of my mother. And so that was the hardest moment ever, because I was giving again in a situation where these people needed my love and support, but I wasn't filling my own cup, and I was empty. And so that's when I started the men's group called Gents Journey. And I said, look, who are my growth friends? If you're listening, find out who your growth friends are, because I talk about the company that you keep. We're a product of the five closest people. So I said, who can I spend a lot of time with that I can learn
Mm.
from? That's also a father. That's an entrepreneur. They have a flexible schedule. They have no problem with the uncomfortable and taking risks.
Mm.
And somebody else that I truly want to be around. And so I reached out to a bunch of friends. We created a men's group. It's been 5 years now that we've been running it. We now have a group of 6,000 men where we have a
Wow.
Substack where we send out emails a
Yeah,
couple
yeah,
times
yeah.
a week to give value. But we realized there weren't any men's health tools for us in the near proximity. You can go to Barnes and Noble, you see a lot of books for women or expectant mothers. But for
Mm.
men, there weren't as many tools besides, tools that we use on our car or,
Yeah,
on our
that's true.
bikes to fix things. But we wanted to
Yeah, yeah.
not fix ourselves, but become more in tune with ourselves. So we
Yeah,
created
yeah,
that.
yeah.
We have a lot of really cool
I mean,
tools.
there's Men's Health magazine, I suppose. Yeah.
There's Men's Health, but it's one thing to read a magazine. It's another thing to be able to share something. And,
Yeah, I know,
and
I
we
know.
talk about
Yeah,
sharing our stories
yeah,
and
that's
having
right.
shared experiences. Because our
Exactly.
wives
Yeah,
are busy, spouses are busy, your partners, whomever
yeah.
you're with, children, you want to look strong and appear, as a positive role model. And our friends, you want to catch up with your friend. You want to talk about, hey, what'd you do last week? Did you go to a sports game? Sometimes they're there, but people are busy. So we knew that we needed a specific group to support men. And that's why we created Gents Journey. And that's what brought me out of this really challenging moment. And that's what I did my TEDx talk about, losing my mom
Ah,
and the
oh,
hidden power of grief. And we're going to lose something in life, right? You're going to lose a parent, you're going to lose a child, you're going to lose a job, you're going to lose something that's important. And so it's about leveraging those moments as an opportunity and a learning moment and a teaching moment of how can I build around this and create something from this so that I can not only heal but continue to give back and share my story.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Stephen, I have been there myself, but during my career as a firefighter, and you can imagine, we see awful things, and we also have to deal with the
Sure.
internal politics like you do anywhere else, in,
Yeah.
in a men's environment, well, macho environment, I should say, because it's female firefighters as well. There is a lot going on, but I did have some loss. I lost a brother in a car crash. I did lose my mum through cancer as well. And
Sorry to hear that.
and during the pandemic, I was out in the Philippines, and then I got bitten and got by a mosquito and got dengue fever, which I couldn't even get
Oh,
into hospital because there's so many COVID cases in there.
wow.
And then they said after a week, they said, "No, we better find you a bed and give you some platelets or whatever it is, otherwise you're going to die."
Oh, wow.
And then sadly, about a few months later, I um, got suspected prostate cancer, which turned out to be that, and I'm in the UK permanently now. I'm in remission, but
Wow.
unfortunately, it's something I'm living with. So,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah. And that's
and
challenging.
that's a men's group issue as well, because there is a big thing in the
I would
UK
love
now.
for you to join us. I mean, if you go to
Yeah,
gentsjourney.co/join, we have monthly meetings. And so in these monthly meetings, we just bring guys together. We have a question that
yeah,
we pose. We use this journey deck. So this journey deck is something we created. It's available on Amazon. But what it is, we've taken the questions that have risen to the surface and put them in a card deck. And then we often go through them. And your story is one that can inspire anybody. When you're facing adversity like that, I can only begin to imagine. So thank you for sharing that.
yeah. No, I already wrote my book, inspirational book, ready to leave the fire service and do what you've done. I haven't quite gotten a TEDx yet, but
Yeah,
I did the podcast.
I
I
can
got the
help you.
book.
I help speakers and coaches and get them. So we should talk. But what I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
love to
definitely.
do is, so this is the Gents Journey card deck, and so these
Okay.
are questions where we open up a portal for men to share. Could you tell me when to stop and you answer me the
Okay.
questions?
Well, just for the benefit of, because this is an audio first
It's a
podcast.
card deck. I'll shuffle and we'll ask the question. So just tell me
Yeah,
when to
yeah,
stop.
sure. Okay. But yeah, I was going to say some audio and audiences. You can head over to YouTube if you're listening on, Apple or Spotify, and
Oh,
see what
perfect.
we're doing.
I love
So
it.
go ahead, Stephen.
Tell me when to stop.
Stop. There you go.
Okay. So this one that we stopped on is, what does masculinity mean to
Oh
you?
well, and I
I mean,
already mentioned that. That
this
did
is
I
how
did
the
mention
whole
that.
men's group started. This is the first
Yeah,
question that we
yeah.
talked because it's changed from, our fathers to where we're at. But yeah, what does masculinity mean to
Well,
you?
certainly not toxic masculinity, because obviously that's what's caused a lot of, like,
Sure.
toxic cultures and things.
Yes.
But then so does, you know, a all female toxic environment do that as well, and
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
it's really what does it actually mean? Um, in a positive way, I think it means being a good role model, stepping forward. Um, a young boy needs to see something going on to guide them. They copy things. You see what I mean?
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and of
Imitation is
course,
the highest form of flattery, and it's nature over nurture, or
yeah,
nurture over nature. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So I would say that it's being that positive male role model and
Sure.
doing things in that sense, really.
And that's a brilliant answer. That's a lot of what we do when we work with coaches. There are a lot of, that it's changing, right, in terms of a culture perspective. And so at the Gents Journey, we focus on the seven pillars of manhood, We have faith, we have family, we have friendship, we have focus, we have freedom, we have fun, and then we have fitness. And so we want a
Oh,
well-rounded man that's masculine, that is in touch, with his vulnerability. Vulnerability
yeah.
is invincibility. And when we can acknowledge that there are areas that maybe we don't know it all, where we replace judgment with curiosity, that could relate to our teams, that can relate to our wives and our spouses and create a shared sense of accountability. So I really appreciate your answer.
Yeah, no, and certainly, Steve, what we're both doing here is actually giving our vulnerabilities out to listeners to share and connect, because a lot of men don't speak like women do. They network, they talk. I've been around groups and I've done the same. I'm standing back
Yeah,
and I look around and I see the men standing back, and you see the women going like that.
yeah.
It's
Or
like,
like you say, how are you doing? Like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, I'm good, I'm good. But it's one of the things we say in our men's groups is, how are you really doing? Like,
yes,
open up and truly
yeah,
share,
yeah,
where is an area that we could support you. And so,
yeah.
I appreciate you sharing about your journey. I can only
What
imagine.
what is your missus really doing to you? Come on, let's let us see. Mind you,
Yeah,
when I first
totally.
joined the fire service, there used to always be these wives' complaints and jokes. Not complaints, but anyway, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. Is that
But
what
my
you-
dad was a firefighter as well,
Oh,
and so
good.
that's one of
Okay,
the
so you
reasons
know, yeah.
why he was a volunteer firefighter. But
Okay.
and that kind of he wasn't around a lot growing up, and so my dream was always to become a wonderful father for my children, for
Yeah,
vulnerable
yeah,
children,
yeah,
for the children inside all of us, that young boy that maybe didn't get the love or the acknowledgement that they deserved. But my dad was a brilliant man, very loving and caring. We connected later on, but like you said, what does masculinity mean to you? It helps to have a role model or a mentor
yeah,
or
yeah,
somebody that you can learn from,
yeah.
or they lead by example. And so
Lead by
that's,
example. Yeah,
I've taken this card deck to the Fatherhood Initiative where I live in Lexington, Kentucky, and they help dads who are incarcerated or struggling with rehab
yeah,
reacclimate to
yeah,
society. And so we went around the circle and we asked a series of questions, and it was the most transformative experience ever. And there was a guy tattooed from head to toe, and he had a couple kids. He hadn't seen him in a while, and his question
yeah,
was, "Who do you have to forgive?" And so he took a moment and he started weeping. And he was a bad mofo from Boston, and he was tattooed. And he said, I think at this point I need to forgive myself. Done a
yeah,
lot of things in this world, and that to see him release that burden and put the baggage down and
yeah,
allow
yeah,
him to open his arms and surrender to
yeah,
allow love and healing come into his life. It was the most brilliant experience that I've had in a long time. And so to go back to connection as currency, this currency that we deliver, it's a sense of trust, it's a sense of accountability and empathy. I think at the end of the day, I talk about being great,
yeah,
grateful, reflective, empathetic, accountable, and transformational. And that's what connection allows you to do. And whether
yeah.
you're a salesman or you're a therapist or you're an entrepreneur, when you truly connect and you listen and you know who your team is and are involved in stories and shared experiences, you're going to see
Yeah.
the biggest ROI you've ever seen.
Yeah. No, and I actually pivoted during the pandemic, and shortly after I was going through the tests and um, uh, biopsies and everything,
Sure, I
with
know
the
that I did it with my
prostate.
mom. I can only imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And then I before that, I just applied to be from doing just fitness and life coaching, focusing on resilience because of my other journey I had where my mum died.
sure,
She died of breast cancer actually in early 2000. That was, my brother died in a car crash about, 2 years before
had a
that.
lot of adversity.
Yeah, so there was a lot going on. Oh, while I was in the job, I was a whole-time fire, meaning a full-time career firefighter, so I had to sort of move on, and it just got to me in the end. I'm sure I've still got some PTSD somewhere going on, but
Sure, the body
and
keeps the score.
yeah, so this is why all this is evolved in a similar way to you. And one of the components I studied while I was doing the resilience coaching qualification was collaboration and connection with people. That is a real component what you're talking about.
Sure.
So it is important. And obviously, I should know about teamwork, but real teamwork, what you're talking about, because some people they do teamwork in their teams, but then they're out. Even in sports, the real teamwork's in their team. In NFL or whatever. But they
Yeah.
might have a problem somewhere else connecting. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
it's not giving them real resilience, is it? Really? In
Yeah.
all areas.
I'm a big fan of the Philadelphia Eagles. I actually have a tattoo on my arm. I lost both my
Ah,
dads, and I have
okay.
yeah, for YouTubers, you see I just got that because I wanted to honor them. But AJ Brown is a player on the Philadelphia Eagles. And he is often seen reading self-help books on the sidelines, and in
Ah,
lieu of
okay.
training and working on the bike, he's working on his mindset,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
from a resilience perspective is very admirable. Sometimes though, then his ego will kind of creep in because he's not getting passes and things. But as a professional athlete, you need to have that highest
you do. Yeah,
belief in yourself. And so I think it's that balance of the resilience of understanding, yes, I need to continue to move forward. I talk a lot about grit,
yeah,
gratitude, resilience, integrity, and trust. And
yeah.
that grit that you have to move forward, but also keeping that level of integrity and knowing that
Yes.
it's not all about you, it's about us and that
Yeah, yeah,
teamwork, and we're
yeah,
all together. It's challenging
yeah. It
to
is.
maintain that sometimes.
Well, it sounds like the sort of work you've done. I've been doing fitness and personal development work, same thing as this sports person you're talking about since I joined the fire service in 1990. And even before that, obviously, I was into fitness when I did track. My thing was track, but I am an Arsenal supporter. Soccer's a big thing here. we do
Yeah.
we do the real football here in the
Yeah, the real
UK.
football.
So,
I have a question about from a firefighter perspective. So
yeah,
we talk
sure.
a lot about, the voice in our head. We name the voice in our head. Mine is people pleasing Peter. I make sure when he
Oh,
comes
yeah,
in that I'm not people pleasing.
yeah, yeah,
Three-word mantras, pausing, the power of a pause, taking a 6-second pause before you respond so you can
yeah.
respond versus react. When you go into a fire, do you have a mantra? Do you have something that you're saying? Do you have something that keeps you going so that you're like, because I could imagine when you first started, oh, there's a fire, there's danger, there's fight or flight mode, that all these things can kind of come to the forefront. Is there something that you do or a routine before you go in there so that you feel grounded or you feel committed or that you're effortless in what you do?
Well, I mean, I started doing a lot of meditation. When I first started, I wasn't doing meditation work, but I was still into my fitness. I think I was so exuberant and looking forward to the job. There wasn't doubt going from my head, but obviously there's uncertainty, as in I've never been there before. What's going to go on, But I want to do it, that kind of thing. When I started doing the meditation part for my sports, it carried through to the firefighting anyway. And obviously we were using things like breathing apparatus, so it's kind of like you're used to breath, breathing and breath work, and it kind of like I think with the toxic kind of I'm not going to lie. There was some bullying culture going on and stuff like
Oh,
that,
sure, sure. I can imagine.
and I
Anytime there's
use
law enforcement or military, there's going to be people that are
exactly. So I use that to really block it out. I used a lot of pausing and mindfulness and everything else, and
box
it
breathing.
helped. Yes, it all helped a lot because I think it would have been pretty dangerous, really. And I think it really what will be the real danger is that there are firefighters that have committed suicide, even and they're not even being bullied. It could be because their best friend or they managed a fire that a colleague died in, and it will get to them.
So,
Um,
do you feel, and I'm just curious for my own sense, but do you feel that training and going into fires and then you're diagnosed with cancer, do you feel like that training of life and death and going into fires and knowing that things could happen at any point in the moment translated from a resilience perspective to when you're facing potentially life-threatening illness, where it's like, okay, this is just like going into a fire. I'm going to walk through the fire and I'm going to come out just like Tony Robbins does. Does that translate across the board?
it can, yeah, yeah, it did. Except I think you know what. Just the actual C word is that more scary, actually, to be honest.
My mom wouldn't, she wouldn't even say the word. And one of the things
Yeah,
she
yeah,
never wanted to mention the C word. And
yeah.
that was one thing where I deal, my daughter has OCD and we do a lot with ERP, exposure therapy. And she didn't like dogs. And so slowly we got to introduce
Oh,
her
okay.
to now she's fine with them. But that was one area that we never came to terms with. And I felt like holding on to that sense of fear could also potentially put shock or negative energy into your body versus recognizing it and saying, look, it's just a word. Easier said than done, right? So
Yeah.
you don't use the C word. Is that right?
No, I do say cancer. No, I do, and I openly say, I talk about my prostate cancer because some people don't. To
Sure.
try and give awareness for other people, because as I say, in your men's group, I could do something,
I would
and
love to have you join
and
and share your story.
globally, but I want to try and do it in the UK as well because there's a lot of top sports people that have been diagnosed as well as some celebrities, and they're using their platform to say, you know what, I've got stage 4 prostate cancer, but the problem is that because you don't even know it's going on, once you hit 50, we want men to step forward and just get this simple blood test because
Sure.
you don't know, but there's no symptoms. and
Sure.
men aren't coming forward to do that, and in actual fact it's not compulsory like the mammogram is for women, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So that's why I
So
talk
what is
about it
so
openly.
tell me what that test is, or so our
Oh,
listeners know what that test is.
it's called prostate specific antigen, which is just called PSA. So it's a blood test. But obviously, cancer research is advancing so quickly these days. There's all kinds of different things, and they might even have a saliva test now for it, and
Okay.
blood tests that test for
So if
many.
you're 50, I'm pushing 48. I don't even know. Like
Ah,
I go and
okay.
I do my test. I don't know if I've had this test or not, to be honest.
Uh,
I've had a colonoscopy and check these other things, but that's
yeah,
something for
yeah,
the listeners. If you're at 50, check and see, and your next checkup, if you could get a PSA, right?
yeah. And if you're black and Asian, or mostly a black community, is even lower, because that certain group gets hit even more. There's more of a higher percentage. So
Okay.
I would say age 40, 45. you know
Yeah.
so
Okay.
I'm not saying it, it's just a known thing to say that,
Yeah.
so. But yeah, before we obviously, because this show isn't a long sort of Joe Rogan style show,
Yes.
unfortunately. I'd like to give more value, and I think this is about you actually. I'd like you to tell a bit more about what you can give value, you can give the audience now,
Sure.
before we finish, and then tell us where they can find
Sure.
your
Let me
work.
tell you, I want to wrap up real quickly. I'm going to give you a couple things. So in my TEDx talk I talked about the hidden power of grief. And there was a three-step process. And for me, the three steps were reconnect, rebuild, reclaim. Because too often this narrative goes awry, or we let our voice in the head go there, or other people put it into our head, or you're dealing with a life-threatening illness and you create this narrative. But we have the ability to control that. But first, we need to reconnect to who we are. What are the things that we love? Reconnect to your calling, your company, community, whatever it might be, so that you ignite yourself and feel grounded. Secondly, rebuild. And then when you rebuild, that's how I created the men's group. I knew I needed to rebuild. I was at rock bottom. I knew I needed a community of people, or a safe space that I could feel welcome, and then
Mm,
move forward with intention. And then lastly, I was able to reclaim my purpose. My purpose initially was, I wanted to be a great father, which I was, but then, it kind of shifted a little bit, and I focused in on my company. But at that moment, I had to reclaim my purpose and really understand, like, this experience came to me, so it was an opportunity for me to share my story. Because everybody's going to deal with cancer in some way, shape, or form, whether
mm,
you're the victim, whether you're the caretaker, whomever you might be. We can't allow that to define us. We need to rewrite the narrative and the story, both internally, and say, look, this is just something that's going on. It doesn't define who I am. And when we can reframe that and come from a positive perspective, do meditation, do a lot of really interesting things, we can move forward with intention. And so in my speech, I talk about Rumi. And I don't know if you know who Rumi is, ancient philosopher, but he says, goodbyes are for those who love with their eyes, because for those who love with their heart and soul, there is no such thing as separation. We
mm,
are all connected. Connection is currency. Somebody may pass on, but you will see something serendipitous, like I did, a cardinal that kept showing up at my window. The songs that were playing on the radio, when you just turn on the radio and it's the same song that your mom loved. I heard Stairway to Heaven when I left, when I literally was the last person with my mom while she struggled with breathing and took her last breath. And it was the most difficult yet amazing experience ever. The first song when I turned on the radio was Stairway to Heaven. And my
yeah,
mom was ascending the Stairway to Heaven. So be aware of the messages and the messengers that come to you to remind you to stay present in the moment. Don't worry about the future. Don't go to the past and relive things. Stay in that present moment, because to the world you may be one person, but to the one person you might be the world. And that's where we talk about sharing your story, like Dave's doing, like I'm
mm,
doing. And one easy way to do that, and anytime you go out today and you see somebody with a name tag, ask them. I did it this morning at UPS. I said, "Oh, what's your name? Who are you named after? Tell me the story." That immediately allows people
mm,
to share their name and their story and build a
yeah, yeah,
connection.
yeah,
And that ripple effect is going to put them on a course where ultimately they're a lot more kinder to the people around them.
yeah.
And so if you're a man and you want to join Gents Journey, check out gentsjourney.co/join. So that's gents, as in GENTS, journey.co/join. That's our Substack. It's totally free. If you want to come to meetings, there's a little bit of an upgrade. And then if you're a business owner and you want to share your story with experts and journalists and other people like Dave's been doing, and push it out in different publications. I run a PR firm, but I have a free giveaway with 4 platforms that are free. You sign up for and you get queries, and then you respond to them. If you go to the Seidel Agency, that's TheSeidel agency.com/media, you can get that. And then if you want to connect with me, my name is Stephen Seidel, StephenSeidel.com or at Stephen Seidel. That's StephenSeidel. And if you want some coaching, you can message me on the Seidel Agency or StephenSeidel.com and ask for a free coaching session. And we dive a little bit deeper into what we do and can help you, strategically set yourself up for success.
Fantastic, Steve. Steve, you really, it felt like I was just talking to a double of me in a way, but you've really given some real good value to my audience. I really mean that. And it's really, I don't know how to really explain it, really.
I'm glad that it worked.
It did,
we do posts every single day, and it's like, here's another tip. If you're going to talk to your wife or your spouse and they have a quick question, and they're like, they want some advice, ask them this. Do you want a solution, or would you rather have sympathy or solution? So that way you can determine. Men are from Mars. We always want to give them solutions. But 9 times out of 10, they probably just want to be heard and allow you to listen to them. But we have all sorts of tidbits like that we come from at Gents Journey. Or if you're spending time with your kids, say it out loud. Say, this is nice. This podcast is nice. This has been pleasant. And then you can remember these moments before it's too late, and you look back on the good times. These are the good times. Cherish them.
Steve, absolute pleasure having you on this show, and I really, really do appreciate you coming and sharing all this. And I'm sure I'll have you back. And we definitely,
back.
And we definitely have to keep in touch somehow. I'll try and sign up to some of the things you said as well myself, actually.
Sure.
However, we have to fly now. But once again, thanks very much for coming on the Dave Pamah Show.
I appreciate you having me. Go out there and make a difference.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts. Or head over to my website, davepamah.com, and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Pamah Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.